Cheese is one of the most universally loved foods in the world, but few people realize how much of what they eat isn't actually cheese at all. Walk down any supermarket aisle and you'll see countless products labeled as cheese slices, melts, or cheese food. They look like cheese, smell like cheese, and even melt like cheese, but beneath the shiny wrappers and comforting nostalgia lies a shocking truth. Most of these products are nothing more than processed imitations designed for profit, convenience, and mass production. The difference between real cheese and processed cheese is not just about taste, it's about health, authenticity, and integrity. Cheese is made from simple ingredients, milk, cultures, enzymes, and salt, and relies on natural fermentation and aging to develop flavor and texture. It's a living food that matures over time, changing and deepening in character. Processed cheese, on the other hand, is engineered in factories, not aged in cellars. It's built from leftover milk solids, emulsifiers, stabilizers, and artificial coloring agents that give it that picture, perfect uniformity and endless shelf life. The reason these fake cheese products dominate store shelves is simply they're cheap to make and easy to sell. Real cheese requires time, care, patience, qualities that don't fit into the high-speed model of modern food manufacturing. Companies realized they could extend profits by creating synthetic alternatives that looked like cheese but cost a fraction to produce. They replaced milk fat with vegetable oils, added preservatives to prevent spoilage, and used food colorings to mimic the natural yellow hue of aged cheddar. The result? A product that melts perfectly but offers little to no nutritional value. You may think you're eating cheese when you unwrap that perfectly square slice, but what you're really consuming is a carefully engineered combination of chemicals and fillers designed to trick your senses. What's even more concerning is how these products are marketed. They use comforting words like creamy, classic, or original, creating an emotional connection to tradition and family memories. The packaging often features dairy imagery, cows, barns, or fields, even when the ingredients inside barely contain any real milk. It's a psychological manipulation that targets nostalgia and trust, convincing consumers that they're buying a wholesome product. But beneath the branding lies a reality that many don't question. Processed cheese is so heavily altered that the FDA doesn't even allow it to be labeled simply as cheese. It must be called a cheese product or cheese food, because its composition no longer fits the legal or nutritional definition of real cheese. The problem extends beyond labeling. Processed cheese is often loaded with sodium, which can lead to elevated blood pressure and increased risk of heart disease. It's also high in trans fats and additives that contribute to inflammation in the body. Unlike real cheese, which contains beneficial bacteria and naturally occurring nutrients like calcium, protein, and vitamin B12, these artificial products offer empty calories and chemical residues. Over time, frequent consumption can dull your taste perception and make you crave more of the same processed flavors, a cycle food companies depend on. The body's natural ability to sense real nourishment becomes confused when it's constantly fed artificial textures and chemically enhanced flavors. The cultural normalization of fake cheese is one of the most deceptive achievements of the modern food industry. Generations have grown up believing that individually wrapped cheese slices or canned cheese spreads are authentic dairy products. Kids are introduced to these hyper-processed versions at school lunches and family cookouts, and by adulthood, their palates have been trained to prefer imitation over authenticity. What used to be a craft, the art of cheesemaking passed down through centuries, has been replaced by mass production, artificial preservation, marketing gimmicks. In truth, real cheese is one of the simplest foods on earth. It doesn't need neon colors or plastic packaging, doesn't need artificial melting agents or chemical stabilizers, it just needs time, care, and good milk. Yet, the modern consumer has been conditioned to value convenience over quality. It's easier to grab a pack of processed slices that last for months than to appreciate a fresh, naturally aged wedge that might expire in a few weeks. The industry thrives on that convenience, masking its shortcuts behind bold flavors and glossy advertising. What most people don't realize is that choosing real cheese over processed imitations isn't just a matter of taste. It's a statement about self-respect and awareness. Every ingredient we consume becomes part of who we are, influencing not just our health but also our habits and values. When we settle for the fake version of a food that once symbolized craftsmanship and nourishment, we also settle for less in ourselves. The danger of fake cheese isn't only in its additives, it's in the mindset it promotes. A mindset that accepts artificial comfort over authentic experience, quick satisfaction over genuine substance, and illusion over truth. When you think about cheese, certain brand names instantly come to mind. The ones that have been in commercials, in lunchboxes, and on dinner tables for generations. But behind that nostalgia and glossy marketing lies a hidden truth that most people never question. Some of the most popular cheese brands in the world are quietly among the unhealthiest foods you can put into your body. Products like Kraft Singles Velveeta, Cheese Whiz may look and taste familiar, but what they deliver in convenience, they take away in nutrition, purity, and long-term health. They've built their entire reputation on trust and tradition, yet their ingredients tell a completely different story. Take Kraft Singles, for example. These perfectly square slices have been marketed as a quick and easy source of calcium and comfort for decades. But according to labeling standards, Kraft Singles are not even legally considered cheese. They are a pasteurized, prepared cheese product, meaning they contain less than 51% actual cheese. The rest of the slice is made up of emulsifiers, whey protein concentrate, sodium citrate, and artificial coloring. These ingredients allow Kraft Singles to melt beautifully, stay soft for months, deliver that consistent taste every single time. But they also make it one of the most processed items in the dairy aisle. It's designed for the eye and the tongue, not the body. What should be a wholesome source of nutrition becomes a synthetic creation with very little real value. Velveeta takes this to another level. Marketed as smooth, creamy, and perfect for melting, Velveeta has become a household name for comfort foods like mac and cheese or nacho dips. But the very quality that makes it so irresistibly smooth is what makes it so harmful. Velveeta is filled with sodium, preservatives, chemical emulsifiers that hold it together and give it that famous liquid gold texture. A single serving can contain nearly half of the recommended daily sodium intake, and that's before anyone adds extra salt or seasoning. It's a salt bomb disguised as cheese, and the addictive taste keeps people coming back for more. The combination of fat, sodium, artificial flavoring activates the brain's reward system, creating the same pattern of craving and satisfaction that processed snack foods rely on. It's not an accident. It's food science at work, designed to hook you on taste rather than nourish your body. Then there's Cheese Whiz, the sprayable or spoonable cheese product that became a pop culture icon in its own right. It's fast, convenient, and instantly recognizable, but it's also one of the most artificial cheese products ever created. Cheese Whiz contains modified starches, hydrogenated oils, and chemical stabilizers that make it shelf-stable for long periods. Real cheese spoils because it's alive. Cheese Whiz doesn't spoil because it's not. Its ingredients are so heavily altered that it hardly contains any real dairy at all. Instead, it's a concoction built for texture and longevity. The problem isn't just what's in it, it's what's missing. The probiotics, enzymes, nutrients that make real cheese beneficial have been replaced by chemical substitutes that the body doesn't recognize or process efficiently. Regular consumption of these kinds of processed cheeses has long-term consequences. The high sodium content puts strain on the cardiovascular system, increasing the risk of hypertension and heart disease. Artificial additives and preservatives can cause inflammation in the gut and disrupt digestion. Over time, these effects build up silently, eroding health while providing nothing of real nutritional value. Yet, because these brands are so deeply woven into culture and comfort, people rarely question them. They're tied to childhood memories, family meals, convenience, making them emotionally irresistible, even when the facts are clear. The most alarming part is how normalized it has become. Entire generations have grown up thinking these products represent real cheese. The taste of authentic, naturally aged cheese has been replaced by processed perfection. The tang of natural fermentation has been muted by artificial smoothness. Consumers have been trained to equate consistency with quality, when in reality, that uniformity is a sign of heavy processing and chemical manipulation. What you're eating isn't cheese. It's a simulation of what cheese is supposed to be. Even the brands that claim to be premium or natural aren't always as honest as their labels suggest. Many consumers believe that by choosing more expensive or artisan looking cheese, they're avoiding the pitfalls of processed foods, but that isn't always true. Some of these so-called natural cheese brands quietly use additives and anti-caking agents to extend shelf life and improve texture, giving the illusion of purity while compromising authenticity. The deception lies not in bold marketing claims but in the fine print. The ingredients list most people overlook. Words like cellulose, natamycin, or potato starch may seem harmless, but they reveal a disturbing truth about how far modern cheese production has drifted from tradition. One of the most common additives is cellulose, which is used to prevent shredded cheese from clumping together in the bag. The catch: cellulose is derived from wood pulp. Yes, the same material used to make paper. While it's technically considered safe to eat, it serves no nutritional purpose and exists purely for convenience and visual appeal. Instead of giving consumers cheese in its natural form, manufacturers rely on cellulose to keep every piece separated and picture perfect. It's a subtle manipulation that favors shelf stability over authenticity. Most consumers have no idea they're sprinkling their pasta with a product containing wood fiber, believing instead that it's just fresh cheese ready to melt beautifully. But the truth is that these additives not only dilute the cheese's purity, they can also alter texture, taste, and digestibility. Another trick used by many brands is the addition of preservatives such as natamycin, a mold inhibitor designed to prevent spoilage. Real cheese, when aged naturally, develops its own microflora that protects and enhances flavor. The presence of mold is not always a flaw. It's part of the living ecosystem that gives artisanal cheeses their unique taste and character. But industrial cheese producers see mold as the enemy because it threatens profit margins. By using preservatives, they can keep cheese looking fresh for weeks or even months beyond its natural lifespan. This process robs the product of vitality, turning a living food into a sterile commodity. It's cheese without a soul, created for convenience rather than craftsmanship. Consumers often confuse longevity with quality, thinking a cheese that lasts longer must be better made. But the opposite is true. Real cheese is perishable because it's alive, it breathes, matures, and eventually breaks down, just like any natural food should. When a bag of shredded cheese sits in your fridge for months without molding or changing texture, that's not a sign of good production. It's a red flag that chemicals are at play. Even brands that proudly use the words natural, premium, or authentic are often using industrial shortcuts behind the scenes. Marketing language has become a tool to disguise manipulation, making consumers feel like they're choosing health when they're really buying convenience wrapped in a wholesome aesthetic. The use of these additives has another hidden effect. It gradually desensitizes people to what real cheese should taste like. When every bag of pre-shredded mozzarella or cheddar tastes the same, people forget that true cheese is meant to have complexity, variation, and life. The bland uniformity of mass-produced cheese conditions palates to expect consistency, not character. It's a subtle but powerful way in which industrial food manufacturing rewires our relationship with taste. The demand for perfect texture and long shelf life creates products that are sterile and lifeless, but most consumers don't notice because they've never experienced anything else. This quiet deception in the so-called natural cheese market shows how deep the illusion runs. Even when you think you're making a better choice, the modern food industry finds ways to compromise quality in favor of control. They've managed to make the artificial seem authentic and the convenient seem artisanal. It's not always the flashy brands that do the most harm. Sometimes it's the ones that promise the most purity. Amid all the confusion and deception surrounding processed cheese, there are still a few brands that uphold the true craft of cheesemaking. These companies stand as a reminder that authenticity, simplicity, and time-honored methods still matter. Among the countless options lining grocery store shelves, two names rise above the rest for their integrity and commitment to real ingredients: Tillamook and Cabot Creamery. They represent what cheese is supposed to be: honest, natural, and full of character. Their products are made from milk sourced from real farms, not industrial facilities, and they honor the slow process of aging that gives cheese its depth and richness. In a market filled with shortcuts, these brands stand out by doing things the right way, even when it's harder or more expensive. Tillamook is a cooperative that began in Oregon more than a century ago. It's owned by farmers who genuinely care about their craft and the animals they raise. Instead of relying on artificial additives or cheap fillers, Tillamook focuses on pure natural ingredients, real milk, cultures, salt, and enzymes. The company has resisted the temptation to cut corners for profit, choosing instead to produce cheese that's authentic in flavor and texture. Their cheddar, for example, is aged naturally for months, allowing it to develop a sharpness and creaminess that can't be faked in a laboratory. This process takes time, but it's what separates real cheese from its processed imitators. When you taste Tillamook, you can feel that difference immediately. It's rich, bold, full of life, not uniform or synthetic. The company's refusal to use artificial growth hormones or preservatives shows a commitment to health as well as flavor, proving that quality can coexist with integrity. Cabot Creamery carries the same philosophy but with its own distinct heritage. Based in Vermont, Cabot is another farmer-owned cooperative, meaning it's not driven by distant shareholders or corporate greed. Every farmer who contributes milk to Cabot's products has a stake in maintaining the highest standards. Their cheeses are made with simple, traditional ingredients, aged naturally and crafted with care. Cabot doesn't hide behind marketing buzzwords or false promises. Their reputation comes from generations of consistent quality and genuine transparency. Each bite reflects the values of people who live close to the land and understand that real food begins with respect for nature. Their sharp cheddars, in particular, are known for their authentic tang and complexity, the kind of flavor that only comes from time and patience. What sets Tillamook and Cabot apart isn't just their ingredient list, but their entire approach to food. They prioritize honesty over image. They treat cheesemaking as a craft, not a formula. While many large companies rely on laboratories and factories to mass-produce uniform products, these cooperatives rely on skill, care, and the natural rhythm of the aging process. It's this dedication that allows their cheese to retain the nutritional benefits that processed brands strip away. Real cheese, when made correctly, contains healthy fats, proteins, and probiotics that support digestion and overall well-being. These nutrients are preserved because the cheese is made and aged naturally, not cooked and chemically stabilized. Choosing brands like Tillamook and Cabot is about more than just taste. It's about taking a stand for authenticity in a food industry dominated by convenience. It's a small act of rebellion against the synthetic and the superficial. When you buy cheese that's made with integrity, you're supporting real farmers, sustainable practices, and the preservation of a dying art form. Every wedge of naturally aged cheddar or block of authentic cheese is a reminder that good food still exists for those who are willing to look beyond flashy packaging and fake promises. It's proof that simplicity, patience, and honesty still create the most rewarding flavors in the world. The truth about cheese isn't as simple as good versus bad. It's about understanding what you're actually consuming and making a conscious choice between what's real and what's manufactured for profit. The modern food industry has blurred that line so effectively that many people can't tell the difference anymore. What looks and tastes like cheese often isn't. What's labeled as premium or natural can still be filled with additives that destroy its authenticity. The message is simple: avoid heavily processed cheese products and instead choose real, naturally aged cheese that's made the way nature intended. It's not about restriction or fear, but awareness. The kind that helps you take control of your health and your choices again. The easiest way to protect yourself is to read labels carefully. Real cheese should only contain a handful of ingredients: milk, cultures, salt, and enzymes. That's it. If the label lists anything beyond that, especially terms like modified starch, vegetable oil, sodium phosphate, or artificial color, you're not buying cheese, buying a chemical replica. These ingredients may make the product cheaper, longer lasting, or smoother when melted, but they strip away everything that makes cheese real. Companies depend on the fact that most consumers won't question it. The convenience of pre-sliced or perfectly meltable cheese comes at the cost of authenticity and long-term health. Understanding the difference also helps you see how processed cheese manipulates the body. High levels of sodium emulsifiers, preservatives not only damage the heart and digestive system, but also affect the brain's relationship with food. The combination of salt, fat, and artificial flavorings creates a false sense of satisfaction that makes you crave more, even when your body doesn't need it. It's the same mechanism that drives junk food addiction. Over time, this constant stimulation dulls your natural taste for real, wholesome flavors. Your body becomes used to the artificial intensity of processed cheese, and the subtle complexity of natural cheese starts to feel bland by comparison. This is how food companies control consumers, not through quality, but through addiction disguised as convenience. On the other hand, naturally aged cheese, when eaten in moderation, is one of the most nourishing foods you can include in your diet. It provides calcium, protein, and essential fatty acids that support bone health, muscle repair, and brain function. Unlike processed cheese, which is stripped of beneficial bacteria, real cheese contains probiotics that support gut health and improve digestion. The difference is not just in nutrition, but in the experience. Real cheese connects you to tradition, craftsmanship, and authenticity. Reminds you that food isn't supposed to be perfect or uniform. It's supposed to be alive, imperfect, and full of depth. Choosing authenticity is also a choice to support better practices. Brands that make real cheese rely on sustainable farming, ethical production, and transparency. When you support them, you're helping preserve a craft that's been passed down for centuries. You're saying no to factory shortcuts and yes to real artisans who respect both their ingredients and the people who eat them. A world where so much food is manipulated, that choice matters. It's a reminder that quality and integrity still exist, even in something as simple as a block of cheddar. The shift away from processed cheese is not just about avoiding harm, it's about reclaiming the joy of real taste. When you bite into authentic, naturally aged cheese, you're experiencing something that has depth, history, and meaning. It's a sensory connection to the land, the farmers, and the craft that brought it to life. The artificial versions can never replicate that, because they lack the one thing that defines real food: time. So the next time you stand in front of the cheese section, remember that every choice you make is a statement about what you value: the illusion of convenience or the reality of quality.